and it's invisible. This is death by 1,000 cuts. So we implemented this in our company early on. Our director of business development, a young lady named Davy Johnson, who's brilliant. She's just so much fun to learn, to work with, and she learns fast. For her, mistakes are learning accelerators. She loves making mistakes. Some people are horrified by it. She loves it. She gets smarter faster by screwing up. So I started telling her about the H.A.L.F. thing. I said, this is what it is. Let's start to look for it, and let's develop our own profiles. What do they say? So we know right off the bat that we will turn and walk away. So we've implemented this with a tremendous amount of success. And then I just recently asked her, I said, so what's it costing us? Because you guys got to know what it's actually literally costing you. I'm working on a book on real estate now, and the guy that I'm working on the book, it's his opinion that a half costs you 2 E.L.Fs. Every bad customer is costing you business with at least 2 good customers. Start to think about how that's picking your pocket.
Have you ever had to fire a client or a customer not only because they were a poor fit for what you offer, but they drove you crazy? Wouldn't it be great if you had a way to quickly tell whether they were going to be, what it's going to be like working with them? Maybe you've tried using some of the tests out there, such as Myers-Briggs, DISC, Colby, or maybe you've even thought of looking for a psychic. How many of you have made employment decisions with a psychic? Anyone? Come on, don't lie. I know quite a few of you have. But seriously, what if there was a Genius Network member tool that you could use that you already have, and it would cost you nothing to be able to vet a potential client? That could be a game changer for you, right? That's exactly what Chris Voss has done. Chris is the CEO and founder of the Black Swan Group and a negotiation expert. Chris is a top former international FBI hostage negotiator and the author of the best-selling book, Never Split the Difference. How many of you have read this? On its way to selling 3 million copies right now. Okay. That's why I've invited him on stage to have a fireside chat with me and you, and on how you can identify potential clients that will be a great fit for you and identify those you need to run from even before you start working with them. Chris, my first question for you is, since this tool we all have and know about has just 7 words, can you tell us what those 7 words are and how you created a new use for them now? So please welcome Chris Voss. So let's go to, I will just say that we had a conversation where we were just on the phone catching up, and you were telling me about how we use an E.L.F. versus H.A.L.F., and I was so fascinated by what you said. I was like, we have got to share this with all the Genius Network members. This particular insight and awareness and skill and technique and listening that you have has been very valuable, so that's why I've got, that's what I want to talk to you about, so I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I first heard about it from you, it just made sense. This is a really liberating idea, and it's a little bit harder to embrace early on when you're hungry for clients, customers, that there are a lot of people that you should just not take in. You should not talk to at all, period, ever. And maybe one of the key liberating moments for me was, we were going to run one of those Facebook lookalike audiences things to target marketing, and Facebook is, they get these insidious algorithms. You might as well take advantage of them, right? Not just the bad guys. And they came back and they basically said, there's 2 million people that fit your perfect client profile in the U.S. And I'm like, 2 million? Like, we're going to walk away from the vast majority of people out there, and there's still 2 million people that we got to get to and we got to serve. And so, we really began to accelerate along those lines, just, adopting, embracing the idea that, that you planted in us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so, and what he's referring to is E.L.F. versus H.A.L.F.
We'll get into that. I got some slides. Because
don't pull this weird FBI shit on me here. No, I'm kidding. Right. Okay.
So we'll get once I want to run a couple and I want to talk.
Yep.
And so if you guys will put my PowerPoint up, this first one is really it's an advertisement, but it's not really an advertisement for me. Is that thing ready?
Yes, I think it's. And there you go. You can see it up front here on the monitor. The front there. See, we're just going to have you negotiate with the technology right now. Hey guys,
Special Agent hostage negotiator for Voss. My role as a hostage negotiator was to connect authentically with the victim's family, and with the hostage taker. Everybody really deserves to have somebody hear what they have to say. So that's not a bad video, right? I got that directly as a result of being a member of Genius Network. Like we talk about, the benefits of being part of Genius Network and the stuff that ends up just kind of coming your way, falling out of the sky or that the universe attracts because of the people that are involved in Genius Network. And when we were at a meeting and somebody came on and they call it the perfect intro video. We could do this perfect intro for your business. And they knew I was going to be at the meeting and they made it for me and gave it to me. And so, there's so many additional fringe benefits from the kind of people that are attracted to what you built. Yeah. And I just want to bring that as an example, and I wanted to thank you for it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So to get into the E.L.F. half thing, and also, I wanted to welcome you back. I had to put that in, and I knew I was going to be late. I apologize for that. First of all, it's not a sin to not get the deal. It's a sin to take a long time to not get the deal. Because every one of you is an entrepreneur. Your most valuable commodity that's engaged in every single negotiation you're engaged in is what? Time. And this is why this stuff kills you. Now, it's not only a sin to take a long time to not get the deal. It's a sin to take a long time to get a bad deal. And in my company, we've always said no deal is better than a bad deal. And we learned that the hard way because we had a deal in 2009, 2010 that was lucrative. The L in half could be lucrative, but it was blood money. And for a long time, we didn't even think we were going to get paid. Almost a year's worth of work, a lot of money that I promised people. It just went really bad. It turned into blood money. My opinion of lawyers deteriorated as we went through it until I finally found a lawyer who knew what they were talking about. By the way, if you get a dispute between states, if you're in one state and another one, the other person, if they're cheating you, is in another state, find a lawyer that's comfortable with being in the Northern District Federal Court, Northern District of Virginia. The Northern District of Virginia is affectionately known as the Rocket Docket. And the other side, who's trying to bury you with motions and legal fees, if they're wrong, as soon as they get to the Rocket Docket, they settle with you right away, or as soon as they find out where they are, they settle. And I went back and forth with lawyers that kept telling me there was nothing you could do, and we finally came across a female attorney, and she said, the Rocket Docket is where you want to be. And we settled quickly. So, just as a side note, great place to be. But it took us a long time. It was a bad deal. It was blood money. It was a lot of money, and it was blood money. And then that was before I learned what you're talking about, and so now it just makes sense. So it's a sin to take a long time to get a bad deal. All right, so E.L.Fs. Easy, lucrative, fun. Bing. And all right, so we got little pictures for each one, because I figured hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating, what does this look like? And these are types. These are types that you will see and you will start to look out for. And again, the lame, the lucrative. Lucrative is still blood money. Just because there's a lot of money there, that's one of the things that's going to make you vulnerable to this whole concept. And then finally, frustrating. Now, I learned about this concept called the drama triangle way back when I was on a suicide hotline. If you've been in crisis intervention or therapy, dysfunctional behavior and dysfunctional relationships, you probably come across a drama triangle at some point in time. And so since there were some F words already used earlier, I'll go ahead and go with them because they're great adjectives. For people that are making a point of fucking with you and soaking up your time and sucking the life out of you, and if they call it suicide hotlines, then they're also business people, and they're also the people that you interact with. And they told us there are basically three types: the rescuer, the persecutor, and the victim. And then they play one role, and as soon as they suck you into a role, like, I need your help. If they're being victimized, I'm really in a jam. You got to help me figure this out. And you offer some suggestions, which we would do on a hotline. Then they'd attack you for those suggestions. They'd switch from one position to the triangle and another, keeping you off balance. And as I was knocking out the profiles for the halves, I'm like, this is a drama triangle. It's exactly what this is, because these people they're gonna run this game on you. Some of them can't help it. Some of them because they can. I went to somebody was cheating me, and I had a friend said he didn't cheat you because he could. He cheated you because he couldn't help himself. So what their motivations are doesn't matter. But it's still happening, and it's still keeping you off guard. So in our halves, I thought Joe's acronym was dead on. He's got a great gut instinct for human behavior. Might you get sucked into it? And in my company, we think about the different kind of emotions because we want to diagnose what's going on. Like, if you're getting frustrated, the negative behavior, frustration is about the future. You get frustrated over something that you envisioned was going to happen in the future, and you're having trouble getting there. So if you feel frustration and you're not sure what's going on, it's very much about someone or something is denying you access to something in the future. That's what frustration is about. Annoying is about something that has happened. As you begin to isolate where this is coming from and interpret your gut instinct, and then you can trace it down a little bit more. But very much like the drama triangle, they're going to move around on you when they call you on the phone or they try to engage with you for whatever it is. So it's not just one type of behavior, it's different types of behavior that bounce around. And it's invisible. This is death by 1,000 cuts. So we implemented this in our company early on. Our director of business development, a young lady named Davy Johnson, who's brilliant. She's just so much fun to learn, to work with, and she learns fast. For her, mistakes are learning accelerators. She loves making mistakes. Some people are horrified by it. She loves it. She gets smarter faster by screwing up. So I started telling her about the H.A.L.F thing. I said, this is what it is. Let's start to look for it, and let's develop our own profiles. What do they say? So we know right off the bat that we will turn and walk away. So we've implemented this with a tremendous amount of success. And then I just recently asked her, I said, so what's it costing us?
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video, and I want to let you know that I have a new book that's come out, and if you'd like to get it absolutely free, there's a link below in the description, or you can wait till the end of this video, or you can simply go to joesfreebook.com and you can get a copy there.
Because you guys got to know what it's actually literally costing you. I'm working on a book on real estate now, and the guy that I'm working on the book, it's his opinion that a half costs you 2 E.L.Fs. Every bad customer is costing you business with at least 2 good customers. Start to think about how that's picking your pocket. So then I ran up past Davey. I said, what do you think the costs are of halves versus E.L.Fs? And she said, they're at least 2, if not 3. Now, think about what you make an hour, or you're making a gig. Like when I got out of the FBI, there's some guys who used to brag like, I don't work for less than $1,000 a day. And one of my friends pointed out to me about the person that said this. He said, no, he doesn't. First of all, when he gets a $1,000 a day gig, it costs him 3 days. So he's really working for $300 a day. And then it costs him 2 months to get that gig. So he ain't working for $1,000 a day, he's working for $1,000 for every 3 months. But people tell them this stuff in their head, like, would you take $1 million gig? Well, what if it took you 2 years to get your $1 million? You didn't make $2 million. You made a lot less. So this is what they cost you. And that's just in delivery. And she said, I think they actually cost us a lot more in preparation, probably 5. The amount of time your most valuable commodity spent on, and 1/2, you could have served 5 E.L.Fs. And then finally, since she keeps track of that, she says, and our halves are not repeaters. The E.L.Fs are the repeaters for a whole variety of reasons. So ideally, it just begins to catch you. Ideally, you're beginning to see how just self-destructive it is to not start learning the difference and walking away. And our biggest problem, and my company's biggest problem right now, adopting this, meeting the demand. Intentionally walking away from more and more people. Our biggest problem is meeting the demand of the E.L.Fs. You're going to have the same problem because you're going to discover them. And you hear it echoed, you've heard it echoed with the different people you've heard talk about being successful in business. I got successful as soon as I stopped saying yes to a lot of stuff. Started saying no to more. These are people that their gut instincts, whether they realize it or not, say no to the halves. The more people they said no to, and then and if you think about it, these are the people, their gut instinct is developing more and more. And there's a line that I'm going to throw out that I learned from Dan Sullivan, because Dan, he's got a line that we're going to share in a second in behavior that as soon as it comes out of somebody's mouth, they run the other direction. Just not interested in them. And so we're going to get into that, and those are on your tools. But is there anything, I've been talking the whole time, anything you want to add?
No, I'm just really loving this because it is just seeing the concept of E.L.F. versus H.A.L.F. And we've, in Genius Network meetings, we do the tool where people list who are the people, the projects, the things that they're doing that are E.L.F. and which ones are H.A.L.F. so that they can, eliminate more H.A.L.F. from their life and have more E.L.F. But the depth that you've gone into this and then identifying phrases which you're going to share and stuff is incredibly valuable. So to me, this is validation and acknowledgement of stuff, and then this is what real collaboration is, where you take an idea and a concept and you give it to someone else who's very smart in their particular area and they're able to use it. So to me, I'm just sitting there going, I love this. I mean, I really do. And I don't know if it was what organization that Dan told, you'd mentioned this years ago, Dan, where something like 80% of customers in some businesses are not profitable, and they are supported by the 20% that are, because the pain in the ass people, if you want to take the 80-20 rule, and of course there's nuances and variations, but the fact of the matter is, as you're saying this, I'm sitting there thinking, who are the E.L.F. Genius Network members? Who are the ones that have been the H.A.L.F.? And the amount, that whole squeaky wheel gets the oil sort of line.
Right.
Peter Diamandis has the flip side of that, which is the squeaky oil gets replaced, right? Not the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And there are a lot of clients, that whole rule of, the customer is always right, Dan's talked, is bullshit.
Yeah.
Because if you think the customer is always right, you never get any sleep, you never have any free time, the customer is not king. It's that thing, the customer is king. Well, no, they're not. The customer is a partnership. And my very first marketing course, it was clients, not customers, because customer implies someone that buys something from you. Client implies someone you have a relationship with. So this really represents to me about how to develop relationships, not just people that want something or they want to, want the best price. They're skeptical and all that. So I'm just commenting. It's great. So I appreciate it.
And some of this is really hard for people too, because you think of yourself as a good person. You don't want to abandon someone. And this is absolutely abandoning people who are just not for you. And it's not their fault. You're not blaming them. You're not getting mad at them. Bad fit. But it's just not letting them soak up your life, because they're going to hold you back. They're going to do all. There's just nothing good. And you're not good for them. If they're a half for you, you might be a half for them.
Yeah.
So you're not necessarily doing them any favors either.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a way to. It's a right fit or wrong fit client for you. Yeah, and look, people that are total leeches, there's plenty of other people they can suck the lifeblood out of those people too, if you want to just add a compassionate twist on what Chris is talking about here.
Yeah, and then, these also represent the complainers, the trolls, the rock throwers. I mean, there was a comment earlier, Brett, the Canadian dude.
Yeah, Brett Wilson.
He talked about people asking, what about the negativity? Like I get pretty, overall on Instagram, I'm really supportive. And still I get some negative comments. And I put something up and some guy said to me, like, look, are you, the negative comments on your post, does that get you down? I'm like, did you look at the ratio?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, look at the ratio. So once you start adopting this, people that are for you, you don't got to serve everybody. The customer's not always right. Mm-hmm. The critic is not always right, and the critic is usually wrong.
Right.
And you're just better off, like, no bad on anybody. We're just going to walk away, which also gets to, I don't have a lot of presentation on how you deal with a half, but the short answer is walk away respectfully. Mm-hmm. Like, however, walk away respectfully. Now, that doesn't mean when you walk away, you're still not going to take some shots. And when we're teaching this in real estate, one of the agents didn't want to collaborate and be victimized by a particular half and walked away. And they were unsure as to whether or not it was a proper thing to do to walk away. And got a follow-up, just critical email. We were going to do business with you, but you refused to do this, and because you refused to provide the service that we wanted from you, then that's why we're not going to do business with you. And they were beside themselves. And they called me on the phone, and they're like, holy cow, did we do the wrong thing? And I'm like, that's predatory behavior. And a predator gets angry with a victim for not allowing themselves to be victimized. So just by taking this approach, don't assume that it's going to be all sunshine and roses. Because the people that you will not allow them to victimize you, a predator becomes angry with a victim for not being a victim. So you're going to take some heat, no matter how respectful you are, when you walk away, and you need to walk away respectfully. The last impression is a lasting impression. But don't assume that because you're nice and respectful, that that's always going to trigger the same type of behavior in return. You're going to take some heat, and that's confirmation that you did the right thing.
Yeah, that's great. One thing, I'll just say this, and then because I'm loving this conversation. I think it was Bill Bacharach wrote Value-Based Selling, for financial service people, and I think it was in the 90s. And he had like 5 ways he categorized clients. The first one was great clients. They love you, they refer you, they're a pleasure to deal with. The second was sometimes worth helping. So sometimes they were okay. The third was fun but hopeless. They're nice people, but they never really give you any money. But they're not evil people. The fourth is uses you for information, and the fifth is doesn't trust anybody. And so if you were to take that as an 80-20 rule, there'd be like 20% that were great clients. Then maybe the sometimes worth helping could be turned into a great client. Then the fun but hopeless, uses you for information, doesn't trust anybody. And when I heard that, and here I was with my marketing methods, E.L.F. marketing, using free recorded messages, consumer awareness guides, education-based marketing, all of these methods to sift, sort, and screen price shoppers, pain in the ass clients, doing all of this marketing in advance to deliver to me people that were pre-interested, pre-motivated, pre-qualified, and predisposed to give me money. So I already had built-in marketing, but then by the time you get them, there's all these other things. So Dan has the opportunity filter, where there's 5 ways you get paid. You get rewarded with money, people utilize you, people appreciate you, people refer you, and then they enhance you. And I was always reading these books on, how much is each minute of your day worth, how much time, and all these books on closing and marketing. And I was like, until Dan showed me that, I was like, the number one criteria for me doing business with someone using Dan's model is, do they enhance me? Do they utilize me? That's why I have a Genius Network Group. I don't sell business opportunities. I like people that can actually do something with what we offer. So I like dealing with players with money. That works for me, right? They've already proven something that they have a capability. So, and then, do they appreciate me? Because I like to be appreciated. Do they refer me? And 5, do they pay me? I am a capitalist. I want to make money, but that's not the number one thing that I look at. And then I take the opportunity filter, the other model, and then E.L.F. versus H.A.L.F. And my brain now has just been trained to use that as a filter when I encounter people. And I kind of like, is this person E.L.F.? Is this person H.A.L.F.? If it's H.A.L.F., can it become E.L.F.? That sort of thing. And this just adds a whole nother dimension to it, because now there's a languaging that you have identified because of how much you know about negotiation, and in your background there, it's like, wow, this adds a whole nother layer to it. So to me, I'm seeing such an incredibly useful possibility and capability here that we're now sharing with everybody. So yeah, I'm loving this stuff.
Yeah, and the point is implement it.
Yeah.
I mean, listen to how I'm putting it, listen to how somebody else puts it, listen to how Joe puts it. It'll begin to resonate with you as soon as you start road testing it. Yeah. And you just have to. So the parent, and a lot of people do this, and a lot of people start combining these. Some of this is fascinating, but you get somebody who wants to see a listing of your costs. Bad sign. You may not be ready to run for the hills now when you hear that, but we are. And if you start paying attention and pulling your own data, which, I'll show you some of the ways to do that, you're going to go run from the hills. This is a predatory move. And the parent as predator, because they're going to help you. And I've heard people on supply chain negotiations, this is one of the procurement person or the supply chain person, who often dangle big contracts. And with this move, they've told me they have to be really careful about who they buy from, because if they become the biggest buyer of that provider of the service, they'll put them out of business. Mm. I think about that as an ethic to start with. Like they're intentionally engaging in a practice that if they become your best customer, they will drive you out of business. And this is what that looks like, because they're saying like, I could help. I need to see a listing of your costs. I saw an email once from a company that said, in the interest of having a great relationship, we need to see a listing of all your costs. Like, first of all, how long would it take you to pull that together?
Okay.
Think about the time suck on that. The one more thing, I was always asking for one more thing. It seems reasonable. Or, the parental sort of predatory move here, and as I said, these move back and forth. They want to know, well, what was the cost of this component, because we don't want it. So when you drop that out, then we want a discount. This is, and you're not sure whether or not you should comply with this, because they're taking an approach that they're just helping you. I'm cost optimization. I'm good at this stuff. I'm going to help you get better. I'm going to be the parent. I'm going to help your business. So we get this a lot. You need to know how you're going to do it. No, you don't. And I actually said to one company once who was really driving at us hard on this, I said, be happy to tell you once we've made a mutual commitment. And then they kind of went dead silent. Because the other thing why they will punish you for not engaging in this behavior, there are a lot of people out there that will do it. So they've been conditioned that it's what legitimate business people do. It's not what real successes do. But a lot of people that are, on their learning journey, on their way along the ladder. They think early on, well, they're just trying to, I'm collaborative. I'm cooperative. I'm trying to serve you. The customer's always right. My heart is in the right place. You don't realize that these are traps. But when they tell you, we got a real problem, I need to know how you're going to fix our problem, that feels good to you. You feel like the savior. That's one of the reasons why this becoming a victim in social interactions, suicide hotline, or in business is so seductive to you, because then you get to be the savior, and that's the whole point. Or they triggered your sympathy. Because they're a victim either of you, because you're failing to cooperate, or circumstances. We're in a really bad place. We need you to help us. We need you to save us. We need you to rescue us. Somebody's coming to you to be rescued. If you're running a charitable organization, maybe. But it's going to be very costly. And if they drop, anytime somebody's dropping the F-bomb on you, the word fair, in any negotiation, like that is a victimizing word. Just want what's fair. We want a fair offering for you. We want a fair price. Well, if you don't give them a fair price, then what are you doing? You're treating them unfairly. They're becoming a victim. They've made you the aggressor. And that, when we first started developing the Black Swan method, that was the first word that jumped out at us, because that comes up in almost every business interaction you have. Somebody is going to drop the F-bomb at some point in time on you. And it's emotional blackmail when somebody drops it.
That is really good. I'm listening to you talk about this, and I remember when I was selling my courses to carpet cleaners, like we were very focused in that niche, and not less than 10 times I had received a letter. Sometimes they came in by fax, because I started selling these things in the 90s, and I remember one person had sent over, before they were to buy my marketing course, please send me the name of 5 clients, what their phone numbers are so I could talk to them, how long they've been using your stuff, how much each one of them has made as a result of this whole list of demands. And I'm reading this like an entire letter, like to buy like a course that comes with a 1-year 100% money back guarantee. And they faxed it, and I wrote on the fax, no, and faxed it back.
Yeah, clap for that one.
Yeah. It was just so funny, but yeah. So these are all the things that they say, and this is, yeah, you're absolutely right. The fair they are.
And if you'd have done that, how long would it take you to do it? And you're not getting paid while you're doing that, right?
Exactly.
They're keeping you from an elf.
Yeah. No, you are showing how people gaslight people in negotiations here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, maybe you guys think this way. And maybe you guys, if some of you start talking about a win-win negotiation right off the bat, and that's a habit to get out of, if that win-win comes out of your mouth when you're talking to us within the first minute or two, you're not far from me hanging up the phone on you. Because the predators use win-win to soften the other side up. They're testing you to see if they can prey upon you. Anybody that gets really excited when they hear this, what the other side really means is, I'm going to win a lot. That's I win. So if it comes up early, we learned a long time ago, watch out.
And can I say this also, Chris? Because on that one, when we were talking about this and going through this on our conversation, when we first started talking about this, I thought, man, I've said win-win. I want win-win. I don't lead with it. It's not the first thing out of my mouth. And I do genuinely want win-win. And, the more I've thought about this is Franklin Covey, with 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I mean, he has popularized. I mean, so many people have read the book Think Win-Win. So I think in a lot of ways, what he wrote a book about, a lot of people that are predators have actually used that as a way to, basically steamroll people and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it was a really interesting distinction when you got me to see that and think about, okay, is it that people intentionally want to win-win, or is it You know, is it they don't know any better? And it made me rethink about that whole term. But.
One of my Harvard colleagues, and I can't remember which book it was in, but they put a graphic up a long time ago, and they characterized, the claim value, win-lose negotiator, the create value was a win-win negotiator. And then they put up a grid showing how people did against the other side. And when a claim value, win-lose negotiator comes up against a create value, win-win negotiator, the claim value negotiator almost always destroys them. Now, the win-win, win-win, they come up with like they maybe get a B grade outcome. But the claim value, the predator knows that if the other side is really collaborative, really win-win, they are vulnerable and I will destroy them. Wow. Now, have you given up on whatever is a phrase right straight out of the Black Swan method. 100% we have taught people this. But it's contextual. Now, this is ridiculously effective. Like if somebody is ghosting you, or it appears they've given up on it, the context of this is they've got something they have to have given up on. Now, when I get this, and I get this a lot in an opening communication, my gut instinct is, how can I have given up on something when I never even spoke to you? But the predators are out there picking up the Black Swan method too. And they're only picking up the stuff that they know, and this no-oriented questions are very, very, very powerful. And so I will always entertain a brief conversation with these people to see what they're like. Because to me, that if the opening conversation is, have you given up on buying my SEO or whatever the hell it is that they're hustling? I'm like, I've got a really bad feeling here. I'm going to go ahead and engage and see if I can confirm that this is a very predatory person. And without exception, so far, it's been a predator on the other side when this is the opening line. So some of you might be using it as your opening line. You're finding it is very effective. I can't help that. My data is every single time somebody uses one of my lines on me out of context, they're using it because it's sucking a lot of people in and it's out of context. And like I said, I'll go ahead and talk to them to confirm my data. There's a lot of this stuff we go ahead and talk to people just to confirm our initial diagnosis. Most of these, my data, this hasn't failed me yet. If this is an opening line, the person on the other side is bad news or bad fit, to be fair.
Yes.
One or two, because these are two different things. But somebody says, I have a great opportunity for you. Now, that's either a predatory line or an incredibly naive line, and either one of them is going to suck the life out of you. And because what that means is you're going to have to do all the work. After all, I brought you the opportunity. Thank God for me. And it's also the way the predators will suck you in, because people get taken hostage to the future. Opportunity. Yeah, I want opportunity. And you find yourself in a real downward death spiral trying to get to that opportunity. When people want to put me, we get calls all the time. There's going to be 20 billionaires in a room. It's a great opportunity. Thank you, but no. Because what is that telling me? It's such a great opportunity, they don't want to pay me anything, and they're relying on me 1,000% to then do all the follow-on business and do all the work to mine the opportunity on the other side. And there's some very legitimate groups that are constantly trying to get me or somebody in my staff in to speak for nothing, because the opportunity is so great because of the value of the people that are going to be in the room. You're just going to be lucky to be in the room with them. It's a great opportunity. And they're shocked. I mean, they get mad at us because they got a lot of legitimate people they could put in a room. And we're just not there. And then the feedback that we get is that these guys are being unreasonable. And all right, you could take that approach. But we're not, we've seen it enough times that we're not sucked into this great opportunity thing.
Let me ask you a question on that too, because what level of rapport do you have to have with someone? Because I'm not paying you to be here. You're a paying Genius Network member, and you're on Genius Network faculty, and we also have a great relationship. We help each other, that sort of stuff. And I've done a lot of presentations at places that don't pay me a speaker fee. Because I do leverage what's going to be in the room or what's going to happen in the strategic byproducts. And there's others where I know they're just using it because they're trying to get a free speaker. They're trying to do that sort of stuff. So what is your evaluation process for when you're willing to not only do something or pay? I mean, why do you pay to be in Genius Network?
And that's a great question, which I've asked myself. I have a great opportunity, but I got to have a good answer, right? Because I am here, right? And I got to know why. Joe doesn't approach you with his hand out. Joe and the people that you want to be associated with, they come to you with something for you. And so, I'm ridiculously easy. I am very into reciprocity on almost any display of generosity. Like if you've come to me and you've actually brought something to me, and Joe was doing nice stuff, like almost everybody here, you know that Joe has been doing nice stuff for you before he ever asked anything of you. I attended a couple conferences. I mean, you referred me to people. You started sending people my way. We didn't have any kind of a financial relationship. Your phrase, life gives to the giver. Somebody approaches you bringing value first, then wow, yeah, I mean, I'm going to do a free speech in Berlin for a group based solely because the guy that asked me to do it has already done some really big favors for me. Now, I would never do that favor for that group ever, but I'm doing it because he asked me to. And he benefited me with no expectation of any sort of return first. Yeah. And that's the difference. That somebody who's started by actually helping me out. And then the generosity gets started, and it's hard to pay back because somebody, life gives to the giver. I mean, Joe, somebody really smart says that a whole bunch of times. And that's the difference. But if somebody starts out basically with their hand out, I'm like, okay, well, that's the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior. So if they start with an approach with their hand out or their hand in your pocket first, that's how they're always going to be. And that is not you. Yeah. And that's the difference.
Thank you. Do you want to hear it from this guy?
Sure.
I mean, no.
There's another dude. Like he gives you all kinds. He's ridiculously generous.
Yes, he is. It's crazy, but he is generous.
Yeah. So actually, I wanted to say that I love what you're doing, and it really reminds me a lot of AI. And you and I have had this conversation before, but what you're using are keys that, if you think about it, it's almost like natural language processing, and you're looking for certain key words. Almost like the government would to figure out who's doing evil. But I want to remind you can also do it for good. And so as much as I love seeing what you're doing, Mike Koenigs gave me a great idea that's almost the opposite, but it's the same. And what he was saying to me is he was looking at the people, and there's a number of people in the room that I love, people that I'm totally excited about our collaborations. And he was like, well, let's look at the difference between the ones that you have an E.L.F. relationship versus a H.A.L.F. relationship. And he said to me, I think it's quick start. If somebody's not a quick start, you're not going to like them because of how fast it doesn't mean they'd be bad for the company, it's bad for me. And I started thinking about it. It's so easy for me to pick up words to tell if somebody's a quick start. On the other hand, Dan Sullivan has a concept in Strategic Coach called A, B, and C clients. And for me, a C client is somebody who gives us money. A B client's somebody that is there if I say, hey, can you do me a favor, or I want your feedback, and they're willing to be there, but really they come in and out of the life. And an A client for me are the ones who are there persistently, not always nice, sometimes asking me hard questions, oftentimes pushing me, but I realize that it's really a long-term relationship and it's the best. I'm looking for keys that help me identify who to avoid, but also who we want to attract. And once you figure out those keys, it's easier to attract them. So it's what do you want to repulse, but also what do you want to attract? And again, I love the way you think about this stuff.
Can we do this too? Can we hold the questions? Because Babs had one too until you go
And
through everything,
we're
and then
almost
we'll
done.
do-
I just
is
want to
that
get to
okay?
those last few phrases.
Thank you.
Again, the scope creep thing, predators will do that to you. Part of the bad deal, 2009, 2010, the scope creep was out of control. We were collaborative. We only provided great service. We're trying to over-deliver. There's a difference between giving in to scope creep, which is wrong, and over-delivery. Like if you hire the Black Swan Group, we're gonna over-deliver. I mean, we pride ourselves on outworking and over-delivering so that no matter what you pass, and you're gonna pass a lot, you're gonna get way more than you thought you were gonna get. But we don't do scope creep, but we're gonna over-deliver our services, and those are two different things. And then finally, on the last, and this is the one that I thought was, and there's a difference between I have a great opportunity versus I have a great idea. And when we were on the phone on a Zoom recently with Dan, he was talking like, if somebody says, I got a great idea for you, we run for the hills. And it's very, the sharks, there was discussion on Shark Tank. The sharks say a great idea is worth maybe $20. But if I got a great idea for you, I'm your savior. And if you fail to capitalize on it, then you're the idiot. You're the failure. And there are a lot of people that think all you need is a great idea. No, you do not. You need a hell of a lot more than that. You actually probably don't even need a great idea. A good idea with great implementation will get you a long way. A mediocre idea with great implementation will get you a long way. It's about implementation. It's about crossing the territory from the beginning to the goal. It's not like, there's gold in their hills. All you got to do is go in there and get it. So these are two different things, but they're warning signs of people that are going to suck the life out of you. And it's very different between I have a great opportunity to I have a great idea. Two different thought patterns on the other side. Both are bad. And if they come to you and they got a short time frame, my hair's on fire. You set your hair on fire. I'm sorry it's on fire. I didn't set your hair on fire. And in point of fact, is it actually on fire, or did they just learn that by being under a tremendous amount of pressure themselves, they could get you to jump through hoops that you shouldn't have to jump through in a situation that you didn't create? So build your own data set, and this is what you have to look for. Like you don't want to start running away from clients right now, don't. But just pay attention to who they were, how they found you, how long did it take from beginning to end, and then start listing the behaviors that they exhibit, and this stuff is going to start jumping out at you. And there have been a number of people that we've tried to teach this to that just did not want to accept it. And we said, all right, so what the clients look like that were really horrible and difficult? What the clients look like that went really well? And then it just started coming to them. So this is the beginning of your conversation, your beginning of your diagnostic, but this is what you should be looking at. Because the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior. And it also goes for types. These are great indicators of what to start looking for. And very much like what Howard observed, a type mismatch doesn't necessarily make him a bad person. It's just a type mismatch. And that's so. And then I got a short video when we're done. I need 7 minutes. When we're done, we got 14, so we can do some questions, right?
Yep. Let's play the video. I think you have to.
Well, were there a couple other questions? Is somebody else? Because
do you want to do
the
questions
video's
now,
going
or
to be
do you-
last. Video's going to be last.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Yeah, let's do Thaddeus and Babs.
Yeah, I sat down, especially because I figured by the end of the presentation, you probably would have answered my question anyway. I did. I just jumped the gun, but and you know, with us, we talk to a lot of people before we sign them up, right? You know, it's usually about 1 to 2 in 10 that we sign up, and we screen out a lot of people, but the more we can pre-screen, so that's what I was wondering, if we use well, I like Howard's question too, is how do you attract the ones that end up being really good? And, you know, but it's thousands of people, because we sign up about, you know, over 700 people, 800 people now a year, and but it could be faster to get to the right people and to eliminate the not right people. So that we, you know, your thing about if it takes a long time and they're not the right people. So, you know, we could just eliminate the maybes and say no. You know, I mean, the no's are fine. We don't try to talk them out of their no. Eliminate the maybes, and then the rest of them are probably more likely. But my question was, can you use this to pre-screen before you sign them up?
Yeah, I would, absolutely. And just looking for the words in the.
So we just have to look for our own words?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I would.
Right.
I absolutely would.
Yeah, okay.
And by the way, everyone has a sheet, a printout with the phrases that Chris just went through. So you all have that there?
Oh.
And I didn't want to point that out to anyone because I think it's better if they actually listen and then write it and try not to jump ahead. But then you tell them and they're like, damn it, I just spent all this time writing in my journal. How many of you that just happened for? Yeah, see, yeah, I know.
Handwriting's a learning accelerator.
What's that?
Handwriting is a learning accelerator.
Exactly, it is. Jennifer Hootie III. Do you know she has the same birthday as me, 25 years earlier?
That's right. So,
whatever.
yeah. We celebrated, what was that, my 25th and your 50th 4 years ago.
Right.
So kind of on the point of that, I had a huge breakthrough. So obviously being in messaging and copy, one of the big things that we do on our team is anytime we're having sales calls, anytime we sign up a client, we'll go back to the calls and literally look verbatim, what did that person say of what the current situation was that they experienced, what they wanted, and what was standing in their way. And we've done that enough times to find the consistencies that our clients say the exact same words, and then we take that and we use it in our copy and messaging to attract and repel. But I had a huge light bulb when you were talking about, we haven't done that extra layer of basically the warning signs and what are they saying for the warning signs. So we've done them for the attracting and the messaging and the copy, but making sure that we're hearing those warning signs in advance. So that was such a key piece that we were missing, so thank you so much. My question is, you mentioned the distinction between scope creep and over-delivering. Can you clarify that even more? Because I notice we get that little muddle where we're over-delivering and then suddenly it's scope creep and can't find that balance.
Yeah. Fine lines between what you didn't plan on doing in the first place, and then it seems like it's a related supportive behavior. But you know that it doesn't really reinforce what you were there for in the first place. And I know that sounds kind of vague, but really, one more thing is scope creep that they're suggesting. And in the midst of it, if you're finding a way, if you discover a way to better deliver what you were there to deliver in the first place. Like we'll make adaptations in a moment to try to make the point better, or we'll put in extra hours to reiterate the point, to do it over again. If somebody's unhappy, we'll schedule another session because they're not getting it. But if they start asking us to do stuff that we were never there for in the first place, but it seems related, that's how I would define the difference between scope creep and over delivery of the service.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great stuff, as always, so thank you. So you said something that made me now question myself. So I've used this in business discussions with someone I'm going to collaborate with. I've used this to acquire millions of in real estate. And one of the questions I start with is, hey, I'd love to try to make this a win-win. And I'll say, so with that in mind, what would a win look like to you? And then what I've done is then when they respond is then I go to work to try to solve that and make that a reality for them. So my brain is kind of doing this because I thought that was a good thing as a way for me to ask, what are you wanting to accomplish? So then I can go to work to try to accomplish that for them. But now I'm hearing you say maybe to phrase that differently. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
So you're in real estate,
I'm in a lot of things, yeah.
and these are price negotiations.
Well, not only that, but let's say, I'll give you an example. There's a $3 million ranch for sale. First time it's ever been for sale. And I went to them, I said, what would be a win for you on this? And they said, we'd like to sell this to somebody that's going to continue on our legacy. This has been in the family for hundreds of years. It's this family ranch. I said, great. And I said, well, my goal is to turn this into a historic ranch. I want to refurbish the farmhouse, blah, 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 blah. Basically, I was able to repaint their vision of what they wanted to continue. And so they chose me over another buyer, and they actually then ended up giving me even a better price and better terms on the property.
Right.
And they've since been back, and I toured them around, and I said, well, what do you think of what I'm doing with the place? And they started crying. So I'm like, well, great, we're doing the right thing. They're like, thank you so much for continuing with the legacy. So those are the types of things I'm trying to accomplish and solve, is really satisfying what the other party's wanting.
Right. So I mean, you're not using it as you're not. What you're doing is you're swapping out value, and you're delivering people a lot of emotional value, and you actually mean it. But you're also doing it,
finance or whatever they want. I'm trying to get that for them.
right. You're also doing it to get them to soften up the price.
Well, no. Yeah.
Now, there's,
well, hold on.
because
Just give
because
me a
you're
moment.
delivering additional value, that's okay.
Well,
And because you're paying attention to them emotionally,
we already
it's
actually
okay.
agreed on the price even before we got to that. But so
Before you got to what?
I'm not going to disagree with you on that, and certainly, yeah, it works for that on price. I get where you're coming from. I guess it's because there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat, right? So to me, I see it's all part of it. Another property I bought. I said, well, why do you want to sell? They're like, well, we haven't sold this building in how many years? I'm like, well, I'll give you full price. I'll tell you what, the bank covers 75%. Why don't you cover the 25% down payment, and I'll pay you off in 5 years? So I gave them full price. I just was able to then use my capital to improve the building and do other things. So it was a way to find a collaborative win. So like I didn't change the price on that. I was able to modify the terms and get them what they wanted. They just wanted the property off their books that wasn't selling. And here I was finally coming along after it'd been sitting there for 12 months languishing, and I was able to buy the property from them.
Well,
So
and
a lot of different ways that it works out. So just the whole thing about price, I just want to put that in there because it's not always about price. It can be terms.
Agreed.
So what would be another way to, I guess, accomplish that and make sure, because I feel like I'm really coming across as genuine as, hey, what is a win for you guys? And trying to solve that for them. But now, is there a different verbiage maybe to be using?
Well, could I say this? I mean, it's one thing if it's working for you, that's one thing. It's when others are using it on you in a way that, makes them a half client. So is that?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, you're living the rest of the collaborative negotiation. Now, you can't help the fact that other people are using that exact same tactic in a very predatory fashion.
And maybe I'm naive because whenever people have asked me, I'm like, oh, great, well, this is what a win would look like, and then I map it out, and then...
And as we're talking about it, you're changing the words. You realize that, right?
Sure.
So how'd you change the words?
You're saying right then?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, maybe I missed it then.
I know, because, look, I got to tell you something. You need to be warned in advance. I listen real good.
Okay. This is perfect. I feel like I'm getting my own session here. Sorry, guys.
So the discussion was...
How can I make this a win for you, Chris? Because I'm taking up all your time now.
Right, and so what's the difference between win and win-win? Are those the exact same words? They are not. I mean, one word change is enough to make a change. And I said people that talk about look, I want a win-win deal.
Right.
And you said, how do I make this a win for you? Those are, in fact, different words.
Agreed. All right, I guess I'll sit with that a little bit because I feel like I'm maybe still missing it.
No, that's cool. I mean, like, if you're ideally, this is just getting you to think, that's
Yeah.
all. And think about, what your intent is. And your intent is clearly to have people that after the fact are not destroyed, like some supply chain negotiators, but people after the fact, after they have done business with you, instead of saying, yeah, that guy kicked my ass,
Yeah.
they're saying, like, no, I made a great deal with that guy. He paid attention to who we were. He paid attention to what we wanted to get ultimately out of it. We weren't selling a house, we were selling a home. We had hopes and dreams that were involved there, and he respected that.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, determine it. Someone E.L.F. or they have. You can take a look. You can evaluate a lot of your clients with this sort of process. But in terms of scrambling his brain, we could. I think you should feel really bad about how you are utilizing these very manipulative techniques on other people. And if the shame hits you deeply enough, talk to Ken Wells, maybe Ned Hollowell, and we'll work this shit through. That's no, but it's good. Yeah.
And then if he disappears, we'll get Andre to find him because Andre can find anybody.
Exactly. Yeah. And last question with Gordy.
Sweet.
Cool.
Firstly, Chris, thank you. Your Have You Given Up On is worth the 25K membership in itself. It's worked so well. The hardest negotiators I've found are my kids. So, because the tricks don't work with them, so I wanted to know if you have any strategies with them. The late night radio DJ voice is not working with them, so any tips with kids would be appreciated.
Yeah, well, kids learn persistence, that's all. And they also, in point of fact, that's when I really started to realize, how powerful it is to get somebody to say no, because, I don't know how many of you know my son, Brandon. Brandon is a brilliant negotiator. Brandon is the reason why the Black Swan Group runs so well. He runs the company. We would not be where we are without him. But when he was 17, he'd be like, Dad, can't I? And I go, no. And then I'd say, all right, because I said no, and now I feel comfortable. I'm safe, I'm protected. And then I'd hear him out. And he learned that once a parent says no, they listen more. And that's probably a little bit what you're going through. You're telling your kids no, you chill out a little bit because you set a barrier, and you've taught them, this is not parents and children, this is human beings. Kids get told enough, they just learn all right, the old man just said no. There's a pretty good chance that I can work this out now. There's going to be a state change in the parent having said no. So, that's part of what's in my opinion, that's part of what's going on. And the other part of it is do what I did to terrorists. I just asked them how and what the whole time. They got tired and gave up. And so, where are your kids at? How am I supposed to do that? One mother sent me an email. She's like, her 13-year-old kid came to her and wanted to buy a video game. And she looked at me and she said, how am I supposed to do that? And he said, okay, I'll pay half. So first of all, she got the price down 50%. And so then she just kept saying, how am I supposed to do that to him? And she said, finally, the kid started stomping on the floor going, Mom, are we really that poor? I'm like, that was a win. You wore him out. Excellent. Wear him out.
You? Okay. So
All
I
right.
told Dan he could ask a question, then are you saying you want?
I just had a statement to make.
Oh, yeah, you can go up, yeah. Look, you guys earn 100K, fuck it, you pay more money. You get better privileges.
Let me just say this real quick. I think it comes across as you're like a hardcore negotiator. But
I'm the sweetest guy I know.
that was going to be my point, because we were sitting there talking about, it's personal, we were talking about your divorce with my wife right there over whiskey. And she's like, man, he is so thoughtful and so wonderful, because you went through all the different points, and how she would say something, and you're like, well, I don't know how you expect me to do that, but you were going through all the points and addressed it, and she's like, it didn't come across as a negotiation. It came across as you listened to her, and you were just so genuine, and you wanted a really good result for both of you. So,
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Wonderful framework. I really have enjoyed reading through the list and getting the terminologies that you use. One thing that I learned from Dan Sullivan last year is always be the buyer. When I explained that to my team, I'm like, I don't want people to feel like they're buying us. We are buying them as clients, and they can make our lives hell, or they can, have us enjoy our work. So this is a great way of adding more depth to that. So I always kind of, if I get messages that are like, how much is this going to cost me? It's immediate. They don't get an answer to that. So I just wanted to add that kind of spin on it, really. I forgot what my actual question was. There you go.
No, that's a really good point, because then you start hear this stuff showing up in other ways, how you're applying it. And maybe it's not necessarily my verbiage, or maybe it's not, we accelerated when we started saying no to more stuff, or always be the buyer. But there's a little bit of a mindset change there where you're focusing on fit and what works. And whatever it takes to begin to trigger that, because you hear business person after business person after business person say, things took off once I started thinking like this. And I'm here to tell you, my company's biggest problem right now is satisfying demand. And that ain't a bad problem, satisfying demand. Mm-hmm. We got more demand than we could deal with by doing business with fewer people, intentionally walking away from entire segments of people.
Yep. And I'll tell you, when you're doing this sort of thinking, I mean, that makes sense as to why you're evaluating this. So, Derek Sivers, who talked earlier, he has a line where he says, saying yes to less is the way out. And it's a really interesting thing, applying what Chris has just talked about. So if you got so much demand, you want to say less to half. And you want to find the E.L.F. And that still allows you to it's not just make more money, but have just a better life and just a better experience. And so, yeah.
We had an example last year. We had someone that I knew from a group already was trying to refer a rather large client. And they were in like paid ads game and stuff like that. And so we evaluated the client and we said, well, we think that site would be a good fit for us. And then we get a message from another agency saying, we're this big agency, we demand that you do not speak to their search guys, and I recognize that it's the same brand, right? And that we also demand that you give us all the information that we need from you to determine that you're a good fit for us. So I didn't respond to that, and it took about 4 hours for them to tell me that I'm being rude for not responding. I mean, I don't think 4 hours with the time difference between Australia and the UK is by any means unreasonable anyway. So I ignored them again, but on their third try, I basically gave them a 3-word response, which was along the lines of, we can't deal with you.
I thought you were going to say, go F yourself.
It was something along those lines, probably more closer, yeah.
But that's exactly what I was talking about, because they try to victimize you.
Yeah.
And you refused to, you didn't immediately allow yourself to, and now they're mad at you because you wouldn't be the victim.
Yeah, and
which is what you're going to run into.
Speak to the search agency, that was the other thing. So.
Okay, can I say one thing? I see Eunice in the background back here.
Then I'll run the video after you say it.
Yeah, okay. So thank you very much, Dan. So Chris, you're in the 100K group. We got some 100K members up here. We have a 100K dinner tonight. How many of you in the room, we have not, I don't do promotions here, I float it around, I mean, if people inquire. How many of you are interested in 100K? Anyone? Got 1, 2, 3, anyone else? 4, okay. If you're interested, genuinely interested in 100K, we want people that have been in Genius Network for at least a year, right? Talk to Eunice, and if you're genuinely interested in, then we'll invite you to the dinner tonight, so you can, kind of hang out with us and stuff, and see what this crazy secret cultish group is. You want to mention anything about why are you in Genius Network?
Because I had to come to a group that was being run by a guy who was as generous as you.
Thank you. And I wasn't even there last year, and you were quite,
Still around, because that's the kind of people that are attracted here.
Yeah.
Just constant reinforcement.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so
let's play the video.
The video is all right, so as you apply this stuff, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to take some preparation, look over stuff, reflect upon, but this is a short video about preparation and whether or not stuff happens to you if you make mistakes.
Proof of life.
life video. That's what they're called. The ultimate good news, bad news story. They're fortunate enough to see one. Today's high-stakes rescue mission in Colombia ended a drama that has been dragging on for years. Chris Voss is the former FBI lead international kidnapping negotiator. He worked on it. So I realize it's a little bit dark, but this is the first time I was ever on CNN. Now I thought it was really cool. The first time I'm doing CNN, I'm also on Anderson Cooper, which is extra cool, and I'm really excited because I don't know what it's like to do media. I'm fresh out of the FBI. And I'm from Iowa, too. I know my accent doesn't sound like it, but I'm from Iowa. So there's stuff that I don't know, but I want to find out about. Like I'd always heard that they have a green room. In Iowa, if you got a room in your house, it's a green room, it's going to be green. If you call it the green room, it's going to be green. And I want to know if the green room at CNN is green. And that's the first place you go. I go in, it's not green. I'm like, all right, media people, what are you going to do? So after the green room, where you go is makeup. Now, I had never had makeup on before. And I can remember the first time when this really pretty makeup lady's putting makeup on my face. I look in the mirror, and I'm thinking, my father's rolling over in his grave right now. He would never understand this. So after you go from makeup, they take you into the, you're not in a studio with Anderson, you're in a room that's actually a large dark closet, and the light shines right in your eyes. And they say, stare at the light, look at the light, talk to the light, you're talking to Anderson. And then there's a monitor that's down to the left. And they say, the monitor will go live. When we go live, do you want that off or on? And I said, leave it on. I've never seen me on TV before. I want to watch me on TV. Yeah, leave that baby on. So the monitor has just gone on. And I don't know if you could tell how dark it is, but the preparation is a hair sticking out the side of my head. And I'm looking down, I'm staring at the monitor. And I'm perplexed. This is going to get back to my mom. People that know my mom are going to call on the phone and say, your son doesn't know how to comb his hair. He's on national TV. There are more people watching this than in my hometown in Iowa, and this is not going to go bad. This is going to go bad. So, you can see I'm concerned. And the real problem here at this point in time is the monitor's a mirror image, and I don't know which side of my head the hair is sticking out.
What year is this?
Yeah, it was yesterday. Don't give me a hard time about the gray hair. I know I have more gray now than I had then. Thank you very much. So, but I'm a hostage negotiator, right? I operate under pressure. I figure stuff out. Under pressure, I can come up with decisions. So my first thing I got to do is I got to figure out which side of my head the hair is sticking out. This case from the beginning until his retirement just last year, he joins me now. Chris is going to be. So for some reason, I thought, move my head around. I was going to make the hair wave in air, and I'd feel it, and you see from the look on my face, my thought said, no, that didn't really work. So I'm trying to decide what to do, what are my options? Because I got to think about the options. If I do it with two hands, I'll look like one of the Three Stooges. I also know it'd probably be bad if I were to lick my hand. So I got options going through my mind. A remarkable day for you to be so. Anderson Cooper's hair is perfect. How is that fair? Anderson Cooper could be in a hurricane, his hair wouldn't move. And I guarantee you, while this was going on, the producer in the back went, hey, go split screen. Let's make sure everybody sees that Voss's hair is really screwed up. And you could see that when we've gone split screen, and I could see this, now there's a little extra snarl on my face, because I know how bad I look compared to Anderson. So now I'm really feeling the pressure to, the clock is ticking, people are going to call my mom, people are going to email me, and I got to make up my mind, and it's like being in that kid's jump rope game with double dutch, where when do I go, when do I move, when do I go, I got to make a move. Closely involved in this, and finally... And you can kind of see a sick look coming across my face. Damn it. So the only point I'm trying to make actually is, as you guys try any of this stuff, like they didn't kick me off CNN because I made a mistake and my hair was messed up. We finished the interview, everything went fine. They had me back a bunch of times. Just approach this whole process on halves and elves gently and genuinely, and allow yourself to make mistakes. It'll be fine. Thanks for your time.
Give it up for Chris Voss.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Okay, I hope you found that video awesome and useful. So if you want to get a free copy of my book, I want you to click here. And if you want to watch some more videos that'll be useful and awesome, click here. Go ahead. They're over here. Do it now. Come on. Thank you. Watch them.